who is your normal host of the Tuesday on our usually lively show, Come Let's Talk with Kassim. It's a big shoe for me to fill. That's why I'll call myself the shadow or the apprenticeship, but my name is Jaden. The topic that I've chosen for today is bullying, and bullying because I thought it was a pertinent show because it's half-term here in the United Kingdom, and children are home for their breaks, and they'll be with their parents listening into the show, and I'm hoping they'll contribute, giving us their experiences. Now, as parents, we sometimes miss the telltale signs of what bullying is. But before we go into that deep end, I'll give a brief definition of what bullying is. Bullying is that behavior which intimidates the person who is the intended victim. It's either to intimidate them, to give them fear, to coerce them into doing something that they may not want to do. For example, coercing them into going to behave in a certain way, say to steal things from shops, which is very common among children of a certain age. It's also behavior which can be cruel to the victim, and it's mostly done by people who believe they're stronger than the victim. So they become cruel to the other party. It can also be an insulting behavior or a behavior which is quite aggressive, where people thump their chest and try to show off their muscles just to make you feel small. That's the word, make you feel unwelcome and uncomfortable. And it's irrespective. If you are on the receiving end, it doesn't matter whether you are male or female, whether you are a child. It's targeted because of people's social classes. People from a higher social class will target those from a lower class because of little things as the type of shoes they are wearing or the backpack that the child is carrying into school. Sometimes it's because of your religious beliefs, the way you're dressed. Our sisters go to school dressed in hijab and long dresses, and they become a target of the bullies. And at the other extreme end, which borders on racism, bullying can be as a result of your ethnicity and the culture that you practice. It's unfortunate that we are all human beings, but there's people who think that people of other cultures are less, they're inferior to them, and they use that as a means of bullying them and making them feel subhuman. And the impact can go a long, long way. I've got some examples from my personal life, which scales a number of years. I remember when I was in the primary, I got bullied because I was quite small-bodied, and in P7 there are these young people who had repeated year on, so they were adults basically in the same class as me, and this was a boarding school, and I got bullied into sharing my mattress with one of the bigger boys, and it was simply because the mattress that I was using was a sponge mattress, and most people in that school were using cotton mattresses, if you remember, and that's giving my age, because I wonder how many of you remember the cotton mattresses. So I got bullied as a child in that aspect, and I remember sharing a mattress with this young adult for the better part of P7. And his excuse was, I'll protect you from being beaten by the other boys. And being young and small, I accepted. But looking back, I now realize that was bullying. And at that time, I didn't have the voice. I needed the protection. And then moving forward, when I was serving in the forces, they took it as banter, and you can imagine you are there resting and somebody suddenly comes because he's carrying the bigger gun, or he's much older than you, and he asks you to do little things like polish his shoes or take his sleeping bag out to dry. So at the time, you just contain yourself. You could do something because you've got the means to do it, but you contain yourself and let it go. Now, bullying can also take place in the workplace. Bosses or managers can bully their staff by consistently giving them more work than they can cope with. But because they are your boss, they expect you to do it. That's also bullying. Or screaming at you if you happen to go slightly against the policy, I should say, instead of calling you to the side room and saying, look here, Bwana Jaden, you have not followed the procedure, but they scream at you in the midst of the shop floor, and everybody is looking at you, and you feel really small. And how do you contain yourself? And this is what I want to bring to the table today. Do we as parents recognize the signs of bullying on our children? How do the children present themselves when they are bullied, or if they are the agents of bullying? How do they present themselves, and how do you as a parent advise your child if they have been bullied? Because the last thing we want is for your child to resort to physical aggression, because physical aggression does not solve, as I learned, does not solve bullying in any shape or form. If anything, it turns out to be a reason for you to be ganged against. And you, instead of solving the problem, you add fuel into the problem. So that's our topic for tonight. And I'll open it up to the participants. You have always been very supportive of the program. I need to hear your views. If you can share it with the participants who are with us today. People are listening in from the United Kingdom. We've got listeners from the USA. We've got from Africa, different countries. We've got from Holland, we've got from Spain, and everybody who is listening in. So let's keep it clean. Let's keep it interactive. Let's keep it engaging. So what has your experience been in terms of the bullying, whether bullying to yourself or like witnessing that your child has been bullied, or even a neighbor's child, or you're walking in the street and you see children bullying or bullying one of their kind? What has your reaction been, and how have you handled it? So I'll open the microphone, and I'll come to you, Bwana Kassim.
Hello, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Bwana, and thank you very much. The moment I saw the topic, I think a couple of things come to mind. Mine was actually even almost a reverse to this particular situation. How, for example, would I deal with a situation where my own child, my own daughter or son, God forbid, comes across as the bully? Because there is being bullied where you have to deal with it. But I'm imagining a situation where now, how would I handle if my own child came across as the bully? But with experience, I mean, all along our life, we've had situations where we've been bullied. You have husbands being bullied by wives, wives being bullied by husbands. It can come. You mentioned the issue of at work. Here in Uganda, you mentioned in UK, people are beginning their holidays. Students are beginning holidays. Yeah. Here in Uganda, students are going back to school, which is another critical time. So, for example, the former candidates of P7 now are beginning senior one. that's one of the most difficult times. I mean, you come into a school and teasing is part of bullying, where, for example, the big boys now would have to send you, push you to go and do stuff for them. There's the teasing, which is nearly accepted even by teachers, unfortunately. I mean, having seen all the troubles that come with that, to see that actually in some instances the teachers went through that, and it's like they are in a situation where they feel they can allow, and that's problematic by all means. I went to school. I went to Kenya in school. So my primary education was in Kenya. Getting to Kenya, and specifically in Ukambani, that's around Machakos, amongst the Kamba people of Kenya. Getting there with no Swahili, no very good Swahili, for example, unable to speak Kikamba. The language barrier now turned me into, a subject of some kind of bullying. But I'm one person who is very adoptive, quickly adopts. Ended up in a fight because I was taken in to fight, and if I won this fight, then the entire bullying would end. So I got a boy, and this was a time when the film, it's Frank and Nero, it's Frank Nero and the Day of the Cobra. So we're doing all these Bruce Lee moves, the praying mantis, the snake, the cobra styles, and so on, the monkey styles. Ended up in an open space where we were being urged on by other students. I beat the boy thoroughly, and he came out bleeding. Of course, teachers were sort of in the background, sort of watching, pretending not to be there. After we had fought, of course, we ended up being both given about 10 lashes as a punishment for fighting. But I think that had broken the barrier. It sort of made me now a whole new star. I was being seen and, sometimes referred to as Cobra. Because that's,
Yes.
that's a nickname that I picked. But I had to sort of fight my way out of the bullying that I was facing at the time. And I had to book my place, because sometimes you have to fight to sort of get in your place. Although, if I was the kind of person, I remember there were other children who were much quieter, who were sort of weaker, and that put them in very serious problems.
Yes, I remember those days of secondary, especially the senior twos were the perpetrators of bullying, because
they were revenging for having missed the senior as well, having gone through that.
Because they were in between the S1 and the semi-candidate class, so they had all the time to play havoc on the other the S1s especially. And if you are younger and you happen to show a bit of wealth, and in terms, when I say wealth, if you carry grab to school more than what the others have carried, then you become a target. Yeah. Let's hear the perspective of Hajat Sarah. If you stay on the line for me, Kassim. Hajat Sarah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So what's your experience been? Have you been the bully, or have you been the victim, or have you seen it?
I was once upon a time a victim. When my primary 7, I was moved from this school because my dad thought that if I go to a boarding school, I'll concentrate more. And there was a well-renowned school whereby most children would pass. The pupils would pass so well. So he moved me to one of those schools. And there were those big girls. In our days, there are girls who looked much older than some of us. I don't know why, because she was a big girl and everyone feared her. She was always the one who spoke for everyone. And you had to do some jobs for her, like wash her clothes, fetch water for her. Yeah. She would, without warning, come and pour your water. We used to get water from the well. You just brought your water and then she would just throw it away without even any reason why she's doing it. I put up with a lot of abuse from her, bullying from her, but then she started even getting too far, like insulting, talking. Whenever my sister came to visit me when she left, she would say, "Oh, your sister is a prostitute," and that really got onto my nerves. So one day we went fetching water and she continued bullying me, and I said, this is enough. So we went physical, real fighting, and I didn't know where I got the energy because I never fought before, but I really put on a very good show and I beat her up seriously, because of the anger and that frustration that I was having. I think it gave me the energy to do that. And
I
from that
think
day,
as
yeah,
humans, that survival instinct gives you the
yeah,
energy to
yeah,
to
it
fend
makes
for yourself.
yeah. I had never fought in my entire life, and I never thought I would ever do that. But the kind of fear she was creating and anger that she caused all the time, she would come find you eating and take your food, eat your food. So, and everyone else would just look away like nothing happened. So I was like, no, I need to fight for myself. And when I really beat her so badly, everyone was like, oh, so she's useless. She's nothing. And then she became oh, everyone was laughing at her. And then I stood up for myself. And I have also encountered some bullying in our workplace. But one thing I know about, if you're bullied in a workplace and you keep quiet,
Yeah.
you're just fueling it. You are making it worse. Sometimes it can be difficult if you have a racist manager, whereby you can't speak much, where you have to really think twice before you even come out and speak to them. But I would think that the best thing to do is always to speak out. Try and speak out and be firm. Don't be intimidated, because if you're intimidated, then you will still go through that kind of bullying. Bullying is so bad that it kills your self-esteem, your confidence. You even start doing mistakes at work, because every time you're doing something, you lose that confidence in doing things. You second guess yourself. Your life becomes so miserable. You dread going to work. You know, doing these jobs in UK are really hard. And if you have someone who is constantly making life very difficult for you, then it makes it double or more difficult doing the job. So I would say to everyone, one thing I've noticed with us African parents, we make it difficult for our children to tell us when they are bullied, because sometimes we're even shouting at them in their houses. We pick
Yeah.
on them. And picking on someone is part of bullying. We bully our children unintentionally. And some of them think maybe that's the normal way things have to be. So when they go to school and experience the same kind of stuff, or even worse, they will not tell the difference. But we are killing their confidence. We are playing on their emotions, and we are bringing up people who will be also bullies themselves, because they've gone through it and they'll pass it on. Thank you so much, Adam.
I think they normalize. Children are quick to normalize certain situations, especially if they see a parent, like you've described adequately there, a parent screaming at a child or shouting at a child. Parents use quite forceful and emotive language towards their children without realizing that that's part of bullying, and
And it's damaging.
it's quite damaging to the confidence and the self esteem of the child, and they carry that into their schools. Kassim, is that hand still up, or is it a different point you wish to?
It was a different point. I just wanted to come in there over what Hajat Sarah said. There are some children actually who feel that they are protecting their parents by not telling them about the bullying, because children sometimes imagine that you're going through a lot, like you're busy with work, you have all this pressure surrounding you. So children now make up their own decisions. Imagine that they shouldn't bother you with the bullying. So instead of coming to tell you about the bullying, they continue to suffer in silence without actually going down the route of telling you. And that can be seriously problematic. But I just thought I was mentioning the fact that some of the parents also make it difficult for children to sort of share their emotions or whatever they are going through, because of the manner in which we have brought up the children themselves, which in itself sounds like bullying. And that can actually, come across. But the problem is, with bullying, you find that sometimes it actually becomes hereditary. You inherit the bullying and then you carry it forward. You bully those with you, and then some of them will pick up the bullying from you and then also carry it forward. So you find that part of the bullying that we might be dealing with at the moment is a bullying from our great-grandfather, because it started from there and then somehow it just continues to be carried forward.
Which is a very interesting point there, because when we bring up our children, we need to show them that, one, they are our children. Two, we've got the authority in the house. We are the ones who make the rules and we're the ones who make the decisions. And also that we care for them. But where does that line, where do we draw that line between authority, for example, telling your child not to do, say, to play rough games in the streets, for example? Where do we throw that line of caring for their welfare and inadvertently bullying them or showing them those characteristics of bullying? Where do we throw that line?
Well, I think it depends, because bullying by a parent really must be distinguished from, for example, showing authority. With authority, sometimes I think we struggle so much as parents to try to assert our authority by raising our voices, which sometimes comes across as being bullies. Children normally watch what we do more than what we say. And I think that's where the line should be drawn, that when it comes to your actions ought to be able to assert authority. You sort of just make one little statement, but then live by it, live what you want done. Be the example that people, the children can look up to. That is one line. But then on the other side, that's authority really, like respect is earned. Respect is not enforced. When you try to enforce respect, it becomes fear. It is not respect. And those are two different things. So the line should be drawn in terms of finding the right balance, which is the manner in which we live in our homes should be exemplified, by not only the words, but our actions in the homes. When it comes to bullying, then we should be able to stand out and clearly show that bullying cannot be allowed, especially between siblings. When there's a lot of sibling rivalry, quite often you see elements of bullying from one of the children coming across. As a parent there, that's why you come in to sort of intervene to show that it's bad. By revealing that that's bad, I think you're also drawing a line, in terms of making sure that doesn't happen.
Yes, we've talked about the physical aspect of it, because as parents, there's enforcing our authority. But do we notice those signs that we have crossed the border from being the caring and authoritative parent? Because there are other telltale signs of a child being bullied. One of the typical examples is when a child withdraws. Now, when you exert your authority, the child will withdraw, and to you as a parent, you might think the child is now listening to me and is following the line. So you have missed that point that your child is actually suffering the effects of bullying. Do we as parents, as adults, know those signs? Do we know how to read what your daughter is telling you without actually opening their mouth, that they are being bullied? Hayat Sarah, I saw your hand up, or was that the?
Yeah, I think Sheikh Kassim nailed it. I was going to say that most of the time parents are not aware that what we do is what our children learn more than what we say. And when you ask, what was your question again? Sorry.
How do we know that the child is actually not displaying the symptoms of bullying? Because I said, when you shout at the child, they will keep quiet and go to a corner, but that's one sign of bullying. To most parents, you'll assume that the child is now listening to you and they are respecting you, when in effect, they are telling you indirectly that, look here, Dad, I don't like that. Can you back off?
Yeah. Most of us, well, if I talk about the old school parents, I think we really wanted to instill more fear in children than respect. And if a child chickens away or goes in a corner, you're like, yes, they have taken up the message. You won't be bothered. Yeah. maybe the parents of today are more kind and more observant of their children. They really take in their children's emotions. I don't think many parents cared about the emotions of the children in the other days when we were growing up. Because look at the kind of punishments we're given. We're beaten so badly with even school and home. And it wasn't ever looked at as abuse. Today, I call myself if I see anyone lifting maybe slapping a child. I just feel it right to the core of my stomach. If someone hit a child with a stick the way we used to be beaten in school and even at home, probably the parents of today are more aware of the kind of way they have to treat their children and their feelings. But feelings never counted in when we were growing up. No one cared much. I would think like that, because if they did, we wouldn't be getting that kind of corporal punishments we used to get.
I think you've made a very strong point there, because in the United Kingdom, our children have been given the voice to speak, and they can speak out to their teachers, the school nurse, or anybody in authority, so that they are empowered. But from my experience as a one-time social worker, it was noticeable that the children who would speak out were Caucasian children, white children from white backgrounds. But our Black African children, people from Uganda, from Kenya, the children never spoke out. And that is a reflection of the kind of upbringing which some of us inherited from our grandparents, because the children were not meant to be heard. You can be seen and you are not meant to speak out. And don't you think that encourages the child to suffer in silence? And once they are grown up, they inherit that kind of bullying, aggressive mentality, and they become bullies themselves. So how do you handle that? I think that's Sheikh Kassim, you touched on that at the beginning. How do you handle a situation where you realize that your nice, sweet little daughter, the one you call your queen, is suddenly being portrayed as the bully out in the school or in the streets? How do you handle that kind of situation?
Is that to me?
No, that's an open question. Sorry.
Yeah. I
That's
think
an
you
open
should start
question.
picking up the audience and randomly and have people come in.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure they must be burning. Sometimes people don't want to raise their hands, but they have a lot to say.
That's quite correct. Yeah, I've got the usernames that I can pick up. I can see Stella Makumbi. Can you hear me? No, I'll go to Mariam. Mariam, are you there? Probably at work. Now, let's go to Sham. Sham, what are your thoughts about the bullying? Come on,
People
guys.
seem to be quiet now.
People are digesting. Let's not be shy. Let's make the show, because now it's a talk, but it will drop on your door at some point, either as the victim or as the father or the parent of a child who's been picked up by the school. But while I wait for people to pick up themselves, bullying as it stands, the repercussions or the impact can be so great that you only realize after a long time that this has actually been the result of bullying. People carry out behaviors or activities which you ask yourself, where, for example, has this person learned how to put their feet on the bus, for example? People sit on the chairs, a clean chair, and somebody suddenly starts to behave by putting their feet on the bus chair. Now, to me, that is a sign of defiance, and that is somebody trying to grow out of a situation where they have always been suppressed, and they've been given that, they think they've got that opportunity to express themselves outside of that environment where they've been bullied, either in school or at home. And that carries on to adult life. And you find that some certain behaviors, we've seen adults behaving in very outrageous ways. And that is the after effect of bullying, which they may have carried from either their workplaces or from their parents. And it's difficult to understand why somebody behaves that way. I can see
I was actually thinking, Banajaden, while we were waiting for people to join in, since they seem so quiet, but I see Sowedi has come in.
Yeah.
He will definitely have a view. I was thinking, because on the question that I'd raised, which was about what would I do? What would you do if, as a parent, you find that your own child is the bully?
Yeah.
I think that's where reality sets in then. A lot of times I've realized that bullying is a reaction in itself. It's not an end in itself. It's a means towards an end. Quite often you'll find that the bullies are people who don't have self-confidence. You find the lack of self-confidence now being translated into a mannerism of sorts that depicts itself or portrays itself in what we come to see as a bully. Why? If you look, for example, at most of the bullies, actually, you find that they have some certain kind of shortcoming somewhere, and they try to compensate. In fact, actually, bullying becomes a compensation mechanism for a lacking somewhere. It's difficult to find a bully who is very clever in class. Quite often, you'll find that they are daft in class, and they become the bullies because it is their way of compensating for the lack of competence in class. Now, as a parent, if I found myself with a child who is the bully, I think that is the moment of now reality where talking back or talking tough might not really do it. It's a question of trying to understand where their own bullying, emanates from. And then once we understand that, it's where you start having a conversation with your own child regarding, why it is important to be nice to people. It's not actually you addressing the problem directly by saying you bully people, but you paint a picture of how would you feel if this one, this and this was happening, having a conversation along the lines of trying to challenge the very behaviors that this child is being said to portray. A lot of times you'll be called to school, and the school, teachers will be telling you, giving you feedback, saying your son or your daughter is A, B, C, D. As a parent, the first point is to resist. You feel like you want to be defensive and defend your child because that's not the child that you know at home. But then reality sets in that you can start looking at a pattern of behavior that might show that this child is a bully. Just like as well, it can apply to a child who is being bullied, but then is trying to be defensive at home by not revealing that. So as a parent, I'm sure you can see if the mannerisms begin changing, the person is keeping to themselves, they're just coming and being in their room, they are getting a bit moody. These are all things that might actually, the telltale signs that you mentioned, which can tell you that something is not right. And as a parent, it is where now you start digging in through action, through talking, and not just busting out and shouting, but rather talking as a parent. I think that would be the best way out of, in a situation like that.
That's quite a healthy contribution in terms of what you can do as a parent. Now, my view on that is that by the time the child starts displaying those behaviors, now to them that is a coping mechanism. which they have developed over time, and they have slowly made it in such a way that it works for them. Now, for you to talk them out of that coping mechanism, what kind of challenge do you think you'll experience? Because this is what they're used to. You've only learned about it after a few years, and it's a habit which has kept them safe in the streets, for example, or it has kept them safe at school. So how are you going to convince the child that that behavior is bad when in effect it's that behavior that has kept them safe in school? So Eddie?
Hello, guy.
Hello, salam alaikum, and welcome to the show.
Wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today, I'm very sorry I joined in late, but I'm sure part of the conversation has already taken place. However, it's not too late for me to chip in and give in my own take on the subject.
It's never too late. We welcome any contribution.
Yeah. On the subject of children, especially in particular about school, about the bullying in school. So far, I had an issue with my niece personally. Her behavior, I knew it was going to trigger a lot of things from school in time, because her thing was her complaining every day and saying that she was being bullied in school. But to me, I knew she was a very intelligent girl, but there was something about her that I always knew would give ammunition to those bullies in the school, giving them that loophole. One, she had an attitude problem, and that attitude problem, and she would lash out at people because she thought, oh, when you look at her and then she will begin staring at her for a long time, she will begin interpreting and making things up, thinking, oh, this is what this person is thinking of me now. So is that what you think I am? Because so I always sat her down. I spent a lot of time, to be honest. I even went as far as hiring professional psychologists. But the trouble is, they even made it worse, because what they were telling her, she interpreted it in the wrong way, and then it got her into so much trouble. But she was a very intelligent girl. She thought people were trying to, okay, I will be specific a little bit. People will be, maybe people are looking at her because of the way she appears in terms of size and all this. So she always fought for things, because I remember at some point they had a debate club, a school debate club, something they were going to, as a school, they were going to represent, their school was going to represent, was representing something to do with the UN body, children UN body something. But she was left out, and she had a go with the teacher. She had to fight for it. She thought the teacher had done it deliberately because the way she appears in terms of her looks. So she applied it separately, and she made her way to that conference. And since then, she had issues with the teacher all the time. She was always, but me, I know, yes, someone might misinterpret her because the way she presents, but I know there's an underlying issue with herself as well in terms of, so it's all both ways. It's both ways. Sheikh Kayira has put it right. Sometimes, these children may want to fight back, to prove something, but now getting back, I don't know whether you've gotten into the second part of the question, whether you are about, as individuals, as adults, whether you've ever been bullied at work or something.
Yes, we've touched a bit on that, and I gave an example of a boss or a manager screaming at an employee because they are not following policy, or they have done something which goes against the procedures of the organization.
Personally, I've experienced that, but me with my character, I never always keep quiet on certain things. So I knew, and I could read this. I could read the temperatures. I could gauge the atmosphere. I knew these people are coming after me because Because when people are after you, you know that they will pick up on little things such as late coming and you know, the longer times you take for your breaks and all this, there will be an issue. And then when you compare it with other people, nothing is said, then you know there's something here.
Yeah.
Now you have to prepare yourself. But what I always do, because I had issues with it. There's only one place, to be honest, that has ever caught me off guard, because I was never ready to leave, but I knew I was going to leave at some point.
Yeah.
But so what I do is I always try to be ahead of the game. If I realize that this place doesn't need me and there's an attitude in the place, I always begin searching for plan B. And I always leave the place before they ask me to leave, to be honest, because all you need is, you know, it's sometimes it's not worth a fight in terms, because you know this country, how it works in terms of character reference and all this. And when you realize some industries are very you know, networked in terms of the same people, you will leave this place, you go to another place, you find almost similar people. So you are not running away from anything. You find the same type of bullies in the new place you're going to. So I keep telling people that when you master the art of faking the situation, this is how I manage. I'm managing personally.
But Mr. Masaba, don't you think by having some of those, I know you're speaking for yourself and you want to stand up against the bullies, but don't you think by displaying some of those characteristics, you attract the bullies towards you, because they now see you as the target who should be put in your right place?
No. By the way, I'm always, every place I've been to, people always even want to speak through me when to want to make a point at work. They always, I've witnessed so many places, people will always front me as their mouthpiece. But what I try to, because we shall always weigh these things sometimes on case by case basis. So, well, for example, let me be specific on this one.
Yeah.
For example, you've gone to a place, yeah, where you think you're only part-timing there. You have plans to move on.
Yeah.
It's you're not intending to pursue a career out of that, what you're doing. And then you realize people are making stupid decisions at work. So it's not worth you taking them on and trying to prove a point. No, to me there, I quietly I either choose to keep quiet and make a few pounds, and probably I'm only there for a year to pay off my credit cards and then move on, or something like that. So that's what I'm trying to say. I may sound like I will be buying into, you know, falling into the trap or giving these bullies ammunition, but it will depend. If it's something that I want to work for me, I will stick in. I will not give a chance.
But in terms of a child, for example, because they're going to be in that school for 6 years, 3 years, and
yeah, I recently, my boy joined the boarding school this year, in Uganda, and my conversation with him, I had him for 1 hour just talking to him about school and what he should expect and how he should conduct himself in terms, you know, I was telling him that you're joining. Good enough, it's a school he has been into before, but he was now joining the boarding section. I told him things are not going to be the same. You are going to meet up children there with bad character, but please, I'm asking you, don't involve yourself in any form of fight or what. If you realize there's someone that is after you or anything, please don't shy away from or reporting this back to the metron, and then they pass this information to me. I try, because I know that he's a quiet boy. He's totally different from me. He possesses nothing like me in terms of character. So I was very worried for him to join the boarding section. Actually, it's the mom that forced him to go and join the boarding section, because that was the requirement for that class, that they need to be boarders. But I was worried that, you know, people will take advantage of him because he's not a guy that knows how to fight back in terms of standing up for himself. He's quiet. He's always giving in. So I'm a bit worried until now. I don't know what is happening to him, but I always, at least I speak to him every 2 days, you know, on phone, because at least I access the matron and the warden, and I manage to speak to him. But it's still, I don't know, maybe he will wait until the term closes. When he gets home, he will tell me a new story, what is happening to him. But it is one of those things. I'm worried for him.
Thank you very much, Mr. Masaba, for your contribution. And just to remind, for those who have just joined, welcome to the show. Come, let's talk with Kassim Kayira. My name is Jaden. I'm standing in for Kassim. And the topic for today is bullying. And we are looking at 4 questions, really. Has your child been a victim of bullying? And if so, how have you handled it? Or how did you notice and handle it? Or as a parent, are you aware that your child might be a victim of bullying? Do you know what the telltale signs are? Has your child, if they have been bullied, and do they have the courage to tell your parents? And have you experienced it in the workplace? And that's what Mr. Masaba has just been summarizing. Let's get it from the youngsters. If we've got any youngsters there, either put your hand up or put it out in the chat. Now, for us who are in the diaspora, we happen to be the minority, and sometimes we get targeted because of, one, the color of our skin, two, the cultures that we practice, different cultures, the kind of food that we eat, the places where we go shopping, and all kinds of things which we minorities carry around. So have we, or has any of you suffered bullying as a result of your ethnic background or as a result of your religion? How did you handle it, or how has it come? And let other people know what happened to you and how it happened and how you handled it. iPhone, can I come to iPhone? There's no names, just iPhone. iPhone appears to be busy. I'll come to Mansoor. Hello, Mansoor. No response there. We've got Habiba. If you're too shy, can you just type in the box in the chat, and we'll pick it up from there. iPhone says, sorry, I can't talk. That's understandable. Might be at work. Hajat Sarah, you're back.
Yeah, I just want to keep you company.
Thank you.
And you saw a video that went viral recently of a young girl who was badly beaten in Kent. I'm sure you might have seen it. And that was quite really a shame, seeing a young girl beaten by a group of white girls, and there were parents involved, and even the head teacher seems to have looked away when everything was going on. So we are being told that here there is a voice for young people when there is bullying taking place, but then what does one have to say about such an incident happening in this day and age? Yeah, it was quite appalling. We were all dumbstruck seeing what happened, and we may not know the full truth about it, but we saw the little girl's hair all pulled out and everywhere. She was badly beaten, and the head teacher was just there. At least he didn't do it so quickly to separate them, because we saw some of the videos as they were.
Yes, just to paint a picture of that video, I know it's a question of police investigation and people have been asked not to share it, but I had thought of bringing it up and showing it up during the show. But here's a case where children were leaving school and must have been at the gates because there's a few of them. And you could see a parent, an elder, not an older woman who was not a student there, strolling behind a group of 4, 15, 12, 13, to that age, and they all zeroed in onto this black girl, and they started beating her, pulling her hair and throwing her down, and she put on a decent fight, to be honest. And after some time, the 2 teachers came, and they walked quite slowly, I would say, strolling, as though they were strolling to the altar to separate what was a very vicious fight. And we can only assume or guess that the reason for that was because of the color of this, the skin. We don't know, but this is all we can guess, because everybody was looking on and nobody was stepped in to help or to separate the fight. So in such a case, if that was your daughter and she came home with wounds, torn jacket, the hair is all mangled up, what would be your course of action?
We got Mansour's mic open. He's now there.
It's open.
So
Is your mic open there, Hajat?
yeah, my Mansour's open. Open.
Mansour.
Mm.
Come on, Mansour.
To me, depending, it wouldn't matter whether my daughter was the one on the wrong or not, but just the description of what you've just given in terms of how she turns up home appearing with the wounds and torn jacket and all this. First of all, it will send shock waves on my spine, and then I'll first digest it. One, I will try to first of all contact a few people that I know, explain the situation. What do you think? I seek views from my counterparts, but at the back of my mind, I will have this. I will be like, one, is she supposed to go back to this place? Is she supposed to go back to this school? Is there something I can do about this? I'll try my absolute best. Now I'm speaking from my own, this is how I would confront it. I would do all it takes to pursue this up to the last authorities in this land, because this was so grave. This was so great. Doesn't matter what this young girl did to these white people behind the scenes, but this is something that would have, this is something that painted a very ugly picture of this society. And it made some parents, actually to me, it was a wake-up call for some parents to think very hard about, about their children, how the people that are the surrounding. And because sometimes we tend to take things for granted. But I remember at some point I walked in a park with my 4-year-old. By then my boy was 4 years old, and then when we went to the park, all the people that were in the park left the park. They left us, they left the swings and all this. And this little boy was asking me, Papa, why have they left? Why is everyone gone and left me?
Yeah.
To be honest, it was hard for me to explain to him. I was tearful inside me. I'm like, what should I tell him? Because they don't understand the word racism. You cannot say racism to the child.
Yeah, like they say, children are blind to color.
Children are blind. And he was, Papa, they've all gone. Why are they going? Why are they leaving us? But and to me, it's stuck in my mind. And these are some of the things that have shaped my decisions ever since, in terms of how I conduct myself, where I want my children to be, and how I want them to live. It's some of these few things that people may not know why you find that someone has taken a certain radical decision, but it's some of the things that I think I will sympathize with my children and think they will not understand. So at least when they are at a certain age, they have grown up, you can explain to them that this is what it is. But when they're infants, when they're young, it is hard.
Mr. Masaba, I share your sentiments there, but don't you think we'll be giving in to the perpetrators? Because if, for example, you consider taking your child away from the school, that will be handing them victory, and that's not going to make them stop their habits. So new families will be moving into the area, and the perpetrators will still be there because they know they have won that particular battle, and they will continue to inflict the same on the new unsuspecting children who will be coming. Wouldn't it be a much better stance to, like you say, to follow it to the end while the child remains in the school? I know the priority is to protect the child.
That is very, it's a very, very valid question, and it's a good observation at the same time. But there are certain things we must face reality, yeah, especially when you're choosing location and where you want to be. For example, you see what the Home Office did. We had immigrants who have been coming in here.
Yeah.
They throw people far away from people who look like them, and then these people face a lot of resistance and discrimination in those areas. And this is having a serious impact on people's mental health. I worked in a mental health unit, and at some point there was a young man who fled from Iraq, and now he was crying. He says he wants to go back home. He wants to go back to, and now they were detaining him in a mental. They're saying they cannot deport him because they think he's mad.
He's got mad.
He's got mad. But to him, when I used to sit him down, he was explaining to me the things that they have done to him. And I was trying to explain to these people that he says he was sodomized when he was put into a certain hostel. And it is breaking him. He cannot stand this. He wants to go home. And they were involving psychologists. They were thinking, I think something is wrong with him. How can someone ask to be deported to Iraq when people are running away from Iraq? But he, in his own wisdom, he thought being in Iraq was much better than being thrown somewhere in the middle of nowhere where there are no people that look like you.
Yes, you make a valid point there, because I remember when I first came to Newcastle just over 20 years ago, and it would take you probably a week before you could see another Black person. And it was quite scary. And the things that they did to us, people who have just moved into Newcastle would not probably not be able to handle them. But because we persevered, we normalized the situation where we became accepted, and that paved the way to other people moving in and feeling comfortable and safe within this environment. So it's a question of sacrificing yourself so that people who come behind you, so you're doing a service for the people who will come after you. So my point again is, moving the child away, you might move them from the frying pan into the fire, because at that time people were telling us, why don't you move to London where there's more protection, or where there's a bigger community where you can fit in. But it's not as easy as that. And moving a child, unless you're moving the child to a private school, because in England, these schools are located by the local authorities, and you need to have a very strong reason to move your child from one location to another. If anything, you become a target for social workers, and you become the bad parent, if you see what I mean.
Jaden, if I can chip in, it might be okay for you as an adult because you may have the mental ability to withstand kind of abuse or that kind of situation. But if you leave a young child who has been so badly beaten in the same school, how will that affect them mentally? The beating itself will never go away from her mental experience. and then you leaving her in that place where she doesn't feel safe because you want to prove a point or you want to fight them. I don't think it might be healthy for the child.
That stigma remains with the child, I accept. But as a parent, because that's just the one option we're looking at, moving the child away to a different school, and the other option is to keep them. But what are those conversations you'll have with your child and the other children to explain this particular situation? Because the child will be asking you, like Soweji said, Dad, why have they moved away? Or, for example, why was I beaten? Probably for no apparent reason, but maybe because her hair looked nice, something like that.
I'm sure even before the beating, there must have been some verbal abuse. There must have been other things that led to that kind of fight. And I'm sure the child may not have spoken to the parents, but they knew there was something wrong until that fight happened. So I'm sure talking to a child like that, it would be much easier because they have experienced it. And I'm sure they wouldn't want to go through it ever. So you telling them that we have to move, I have to move you from here because I don't feel you safe. I'm sure they will come that very, very happily. And I don't think they should ever trust any of those teachers. Seeing the head teacher standing by when she's being battered like that, I don't think she does trust anyone in that school.
Now, if we take a tangent from this, but related, because in the UK, like in most Western countries.
Which town in Kent was that incident? Hajat Sarah, which town in Kent was that?
I don't know.
Ashford,
Sure.
Ashford, or some place.
Ashford. Oh, Ashford.
So that video was circulated on all our platforms,
Yes,
and
it circulated, but I saw the video, but I don't know the school. We're in Kent. I mean, for example, in Kent, because I know Kent is predominantly a white area. That's for sure. Yeah, they are very serious white supremacists, far right-wing people that live in Kent. I've been down to work in Kent, and I've been at the train station, and I've seen the look, the way people stare at you, and you'll be frightened. You've been in a train, you're seated in a coach on your own, and you see all these people, these young white boys walk in, and you're scared. You're an adult, but you're scared to see these young boys.
Which brings me to the point of the kind of protections that we get either in school or out in the community. We've got the legal protection against discrimination, for example, in terms of your gender. You get the protection, your abilities, your religion, and so on. Now, do you think as Black people get the kind of protection that law purports to give? Because you saw the way, or we saw the way that the teachers or the people who were meant to protect our children, the way they moved to break in. It's as if the law did not exist. So do we get that kind of protection as people in the diaspora? Can I have Galaxy S10 Plus? Galaxy S10 Plus, if you're there, can you unmute yourself, please? I'll move on to Stella Makumbi. Can you unmute yourself and make a contribution to that last point I made? Okay, I'll move to Imam. Can you unmute yourself, please? Imam, are you there? Sorry, I'm listening in, but I can't speak. That's Galaxy S10. Thanks for listening in. I'll move to Farida. Farida, if you can hear me, can you unmute yourself, please? Or type in the chat box so we can react to it. I'll move to Alia. What's your take on the bullying as a parent or as a child? Anybody who's got youngsters listening in to make a contribution from that perspective of from a child?
You got a hand up.
I got a hand up. Ramla, can you unmute yourself?
Ramla.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Mine is, I'm thinking in this country, as an adult, I don't know how others might think. If you speak out your feelings and how you feel and how you're being treated, you might be helped. I give an example of myself. The other year, I traveled to Uganda for holidays. When I was there for 3 weeks, the annual holidays, I'm entitled for 3 weeks, but the last week when my holidays were almost ending, I got malaria. I informed my employers that I'm not coming now, I'm not well. They said, oh, that's not nice. They gave me some time. In that time as well, when I was still there, I lost my sister whom I follow. So with our company policy, when you you are sick, the managers have to check on you weekly. It took me some time. I didn't come back early, so they were ringing me to find out how I was. In that time when they were ringing me, I lost again a sister. I rang my manager. I told her, oh, in crying tears, real tears, you know, when you lose a sister. I told that manager, I've really lost my sister. I don't know what to do. She felt, oh, what can I do? I said, oh, there's nothing you can do because I was in Uganda. I just needed to be on my own. And this manager, to cut the story short, when I'm here, when she's going for holidays, she'll allow anybody, oh, I'm going to holidays, don't call me. Before even like 2 weeks prior to her holidays, you'll have like 3-4 warning messages. Don't call me, I'm going for my holidays. Don't call me, I'm going for my holidays. I said, okay, that was her. Now me in Uganda, I was poorly. I told her I lost a sister. She said, oh, sorry. She felt sorry for the first week. After the second week, she said, oh, Ramla, can we have this chat? You are sick. I know you've lost your sister, but can we have a chat? I said, I really felt bad. I'm still grieving my sister. With her, when she goes for holidays, she doesn't want to be contacted. Me, who is grieving my sister, she wants me to tell her how I'm feeling and to tell her blah, blah, because she's concerned about the job. I kept quiet. I said, okay, when I come back, I'll tell you my peace of mind. So when I was still in Uganda, it took a while. When I was still there, I wrote her a message. I said, my manager, I know this is a kind of job, but when you only go for your holidays, enjoyment, you don't want to be contacted. But me, who is grieving my sister, you wanted me to come and talk to you. How do you take it? So when I came back, I had a word with her, a serious word with her. So she felt bad, and I went up to her top manager. I explained my grievings, said, no, the way she treated me wasn't right. I was grieving my sister. She couldn't even allow me to grieve. She wanted me to come back and tell her whatever is happening. Yet with her, when she's just going for entertainment, she doesn't want to be called. So how is that? So since that time, I gave her a big shock. Now, whenever she wants to do something, she has to think twice to talk to me. So sometimes I think if you talk, it gives them some ideas. Okay, but if you keep quiet, they'll say, oh, they get away with some stuff. That's my thinking. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your contribution, and sorry for the losses that you had while you were in Uganda. That again shows the subtleness of bullying, because that's the manager exercising their authority rightfully. But this is a situation where you've lost a family member and a close member of your family, and you should be given time out of respect for yourself as an employee, and also respect for the departed, and give you time to come to terms with that. So those are the kind of symptoms that signs that the managers use policy and procedures to bully staff. And if you are naive, you'll assume they're using the policy and procedure correctly, when in effect that's bullying. And you shouldn't stand for that, I should say, but stand for yourself in a respectful way without causing some kind of confrontation. Galaxy S10 Plus says, a friend of mine was saying she encouraged her son to fight back if he ever gets attacked and bullied. In fact, she said she's going to take her son to boxing classes, which again is standing for himself. And imagine if that black girl in the video had defended herself so strongly and beaten those white girls badly, she probably would be in prison. Again, we don't have that crystal ball, but we have seen instances where this shoe is on the other leg, and for simple reasons, you find the minority is taken to prison for standing up for themselves. So I would personal advise caution when you advise your children to stand for themselves or to defend themselves, because they are the minority and it can turn quite nasty. And you don't want your child, much as you love to protect them, you don't want them to end up on the wrong side of the law. I can see another hand up. Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Can you introduce yourself, please?
This is Sister Haswa Kasuja. Thank you, Brother Cheden, for handling the program. You're doing a good job.
Thank you.
Big shoes to fill, but you're handling it just fine, alhamdulillah.
Thanks for the encouragement.
I just wanted to react to that fighting back. I am that person who will say fight back. You have to fight back. But I watched something on TV this last week, and they were giving statistics that children who are encouraged to fight back, statistics had shown that these are the children who end up getting guns and revenge. Because if they may not fight with their fist, they find a way to fight back, because that mode of fighting back pushes them to do so much because of the level of heart they have. So they were saying that many of the kids, if you look at some of the statistics of the kids who have been in school shootings, were bullied. And
victims of bullying here.
They were victims of bullying, and they were told to fight back, but were not able to fight back with their fists, but then they found ways to see how they could fight back. And when they fought back, it was really nasty. I mean, US is bad because they end up getting a gun and you have a mass shooting. So it took me, it triggered my brain a little bit, because I always thought I am pro fight back all the way. I always say, you don't let someone, just walk all over you. You have to be able to stand up for yourself. If you can't stand up for yourself verbally. Of course, girls, it's not as much, only probably in high school when you see kids like really fight. like fight back really bad. But I've always been like, okay, stand up for yourself. And then it made me think, if we encourage them to fight back, are we grooming future juvenile delinquents who are going to end up in prison? I don't know.
Exactly, because if you look at the mass shootings in school, in America, in New Zealand, in Australia, I think someplace in Brazil, and they were all a result of people or young people who have been bullied, and they didn't want to be in the school, and the only way they could express their anger was to go and shoot randomly. Now, the fact that they shot randomly means their anger is not directed at one person, but it's directed at the community. So you are right when you say fight back, but fight back against who? Are you fighting back against the community? Are we fighting back, teaching them to fight against the particular bullies, or is it the system that we encourage the children to fight against? Personally, I would think fighting against the system would be a better fight, because when you pick the individual, there are more individuals out there, but it's that one system which protects all of us that we need to fight against.
The system is rigged, Brother Jaden. The system sometimes is rigged. Sometimes you have parents who are frustrated that did not listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that video of that girl in the UK, because you saw parents who said, I made complaints, nobody listened. So sometimes the system frustrates you when you don't listen, when your child is a victim. And it's even not fair for you to say, okay, I'm going to move my kid to the school when the perpetrator stays in the school, when the bully stays in the school. So you have to change your life. But because you do that, because the system is frustrating, the system may not, especially as minorities, the system does not protect us as much as we need to. Now, God forbid if it's a white person and then they kill themselves and oh my God, there's going to be so much noise. So sometimes the system frustrates you, and especially minorities. That's why they end up putting sometimes the law in their hands. It's not the right thing to do, but sometimes it is a cry for help.
Yes, I had an experience of my daughters who were assaulted. They were out playing on the, we had a park with swings and soft ground for children to play. And one of my daughters got picked up by a male white child and started throwing things at them. And at the time I was at work, but fortunately a friend was nearby, and this friend also had their children playing with my daughters. So when he was called to the scene, he told this young man off and threatened verbally that if he continued showing aggression towards my daughter and their friends, then he would take it upon themselves. So he left matters there and took our children back home. But that same evening, the police visited him and accused him of showing aggression towards a child. When earlier he had called the police asking them to come and look at the situation, and they said they would log the incident since it was not happening and just leave the environment. So the system, like you said, can be rigged, and it's in most cases it's rigged against the minorities. So fighting the system and fighting the perpetrators, I think we are fighting a losing battle, so to say. Can we have any youngsters who are listening in? It's half term. They must have experiences from their schools or their youth clubs. Can we have any contribution from the youngsters? I'll pick randomly again, and hopefully I'll be lucky this time. I've got Nameless. I don't know who Nameless is. Can you unmute yourself, please? Right, we've got Estelle Makumbi. Can you unmute yourself? Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Welcome to the show.
Okay. Bullying is a very big problem, especially in schools and at work as well. People,
Mr. Makumbi, why that misses his phone now?
I did what?
That you're using the Mrs. phone.
It's Estelle
Yeah.
Makumbi. Now I'm hearing Mr. Makumbi. What is this impersonation you're trying to do?
That is already typical.
Mr. Soedi, they are one. Estelle Makumbi and Mr. Makumbi, I think they are one.
The partnership.
It's okay.
Yeah, I've been a unionist activist, and I've represented people, workers, and usually you see that everything which is very obvious, but before the management, the time they come to conclusions, you can't believe it. They usually find someone who has been bullied standing that as if someone is a buller, or the one who's bullying people.
Yeah.
And that became a very big issue. So we had just to raise up the game, and we had to go to the industrial tribunal, whereby all those issues had to be addressed. And at the panel, at the tribunal, the judge asked the senior managers how came that they could come up to that conclusion.
Yeah.
But they pretend as if it was just a misjudgment. They oversaw. They didn't.
Oversight.
Oversight.
Yeah.
But fortunately, they were heavily punished, and the culprit got a lot of money from that. Yeah, but what I usually tell people at work, people become so desperate, and then they're being bullied, never raise any issue. I think is if you are at work, if you are bullied, take notice, try at least to get people around or jot everything down. Raise the issue with your employee.
Yeah.
The case might not be dealt with at the moment, but since you've got a catalog of evidences, when you take the matter to senior managers, usually they address the issue. But if you keep quiet, they make work a nightmare.
But Mr. Makumbi, sometimes the evidence might be in your mind. For example, a manager screaming at you, and it just happens at that instant, or a manager giving you additional tasks which you complete. So how do you document that apart from the date and time? How do you document the screaming, for example?
You compare the work that is given to other colleagues, the time, the thing that have been put up, or the expectation, how high the bar is. Then you compare the two. Usually they make the comments, pick up those comments and challenge them all on site, change them now and then. So you say the reason why you're challenging it, say I compare this and this. Why have I been treated differently compared to others? Yet the other was given this amount of work and got a pat at the back. When you start making those catalogs, incidences, noting them down, when you come to take them on, you've got evidence that has been brought to the management, and yet before the judge prove it to them that the case was raised up to them, but it was not dealt with, and you compare with the corporate policies. But if you think that you're done once and then you take them on, you won't manage. But you have got a catalog of the evidences and places and who were around or what comment they make. When you go to the court, usually the court nowadays support those who have been harassed or bullied. And most of the unions nowadays, they raised up a big of those things. They say never take those bullies as part of the work. If it's done, try to take it and usually they support if at all you've got enough evidence. But if you go to court, usually the courts are very rarely come hard on them. What I found out, what transpires in the court is different from what goes at workplace. Most of those judges, and usually some of those have been laymen, who have gone through the same experience. So if you put up your case, they most likely, if I've got evidence, they come support you.
That's a valid contribution there. For those who have just joined us, we are discussing bullying. As parents, have we noticed bullying to any of our children or at a place of work? And how have we dealt with it? Can we get contributions from the youngsters, or can we have a different perspective from the religious point of view? What does the religion tell us about standing for our rights and bullying others? Anybody with that religious knowledge would be appreciated if you can share that perspective with us. Right, I'll go randomly again around the participants, seeing that we're coming to the end of the show. Can we have iPhone? iPhone, can you unmute yourself and make a contribution? Remember, this is our show. We learn from each other. We educate, not just ourselves, we educate our children. And any contribution that you make is not going to be frowned against. It's going to be a valid contribution. It's your experience, and you never know who you're going to benefit. So where are you coming back in again?
Yeah, I'm coming back.
Okay, what's your contribution?
Yeah, from I think from the religious perspective, I would say I'm not authorized to speak on behalf or issuing a fatwa or anything on that regard. But with the little knowledge and understanding I know about Islam, is Islam will call for you using your wisdom and balancing the thing on a balance of probability, weigh up the situation. You cannot face. There are certain scenarios where you may be seen to be giving in to the perpetrator, but if it will be the best for you and it will be saving you in one way or the other, it will. Yeah, it's much better, because Islam calls for calmness and being patient. The extent to which you can exercise your patience is measured against your faith in terms of how strong you are. If you are one individual that can tolerate certain things, so be it. So long as they are not directly, it is not, for example, directly affecting your practice of your faith. Say, for example, at workplace, if you have a manager that is stopping you from probably taking a break to go and pray, and you're thinking others are going out to smoke 5 times in a shift, they go out for a cigarette smoke in a group, but when you take 5 minutes to go and pray is an issue, then that's
an issue.
That's an issue. So at least I think Islam tells you there's no the la haya fi din, don't there's no shyness, or you can't just chip out of the situation just because of that. You stand up and say, no, this is what I think. It will be fair play if I'm also accorded this. And fair enough. Most of the public places, public organizations, especially if you're working in public sector, these things are now catered for, thank God. If it's a religious, there's only one place, ever since I started working, I've only encountered one place where when I told them that it's Eid tomorrow, and it became an issue, because they said, oh, why didn't you book it in advance? I say to them that, look, this is Ramadan.
The Eid comes,
Yeah, when Eid comes, so it's not one of those Eids where you will know the date in advance. So I try to explain to them, but they try to make it an issue. It's only one place, ever since I started working this place, that I've faced such a challenge in terms of praying and in terms of exercising my Islamic rituals.
So what I'm hearing here before I come to Mr. Makumbi again, it's you said wisdom and balance. So are we looking at the kind of peaceful resistance that Gandhi, the late Gandhi, would have used when he was fighting against the British and the colonialists? You know, you resist, but in a peaceful, and you educate the perpetrator that what you are doing is not right, and it's my right to say, for example, to observe my prayers. And how come you are offering people more time to go out and smoke when I'm asking for just 5 minutes to follow my faith? So let's bring in Mr. Makumbi for your contribution, please. Your hand is still up, or is that a legacy hand? Mr. Makumbi? Right, we'll go to Mariam. Mariam, can you unmute yourself?
Hello,
Hello?
can I come in?
Yes, you can come in.
Yes, Kumbi. Yeah, I think for me, when I look at the bullying, if given an inch, they take a mile. What I insist, I had a culture where was much of it were non-Muslims.
Yeah.
But I made my point clear. When it came to Christmas, I didn't volunteer. I did to volunteer to work during Christmas time when the others took their time off. But when it came to Eid, I stood my ground. I
insisted you needed time off.
I insisted I need time off, and I gave the reason that because I'm of the different belief. When it came to Christmas, I gave them chance to have their day off. So
Yeah.
I have the right. I say I don't ask, but I have the right to have a day off as well. Because it's just the policy of the government, the policy of the local authority, whereby people are treated equally. If I don't get that time off, it means that I'm either being treated different from the others. And
so it's a question of voicing your concern, but in a respectful and giving evidence and the reasons why you needed the time and to protect yourself from being bullied.
Yeah, so it became normal that they know that one age just depends on the appearance of the moon. They say that for you, anytime if you say anything, I will take a break because that's their culture. It comes out of the blue. So it became a joke in office. And I had my time. When it came to fasting, I said, yes, I have the right to fast. I go to bed very late and I'm very hungry. I can't work up to 5. So the only thing is I either come in 7 in the morning, by around 3 o'clock I'm off. But I've added my case and they accepted it. It became the norm. The company took it up as a policy that all those who are Muslim have the right to come in early in the morning and then leave at 3 when prayer there. And even it came even to Jumas. I said, Jumas, I have to go to church, I have to go to the mosque, but I can make it up. I have 1 hour to travel and 1 hour back.
Yeah.
So I make up the number of hours. Say, rather than leaving at 5, I'll be leaving at 6. So they accepted it. But what I usually tell people, they don't challenge it. If that you are being bullied, challenge it. What scares the employer is someone who challenges it with a reason. But if you don't have anything to back yourself,
to back up yourself.
Yeah. But bullying can destroy someone's ability. You lose competence. You might end up having health problems. It's just a very big problem. Never accept that. It's part of the job that they have to be bullied or being shouted at by my manager.
Yes, and that's the one thing that we mentioned in passing, the after effects of bullying, because the obvious one of the mental health can bring suicidal tendencies, your self-confidence self-esteem is knocked down. So it's only right that you stand up for yourself, but with reason.
Usually the employer usually do survey of what goes on the workplace. People never say anything. Yes, they fear that if I make a comment, I'll be picked up or might lose a job. Not knowing that all those things done by external company, they give them a reason, and then if they give them the reason, they have to give a reason why a person made those comments. And if it becomes the normal of the company, they will have to work hard and redress it, because if it's been found out that issues have been raised, they are penalized. They never tell you, but physically, commercial, financial usually get penalty and then penalty for that. But for us, we fear that if I do this on a big tone, it's randomly that, and they can't know who made that comment, but usually the management picks up it.
Yeah, but how Mr. Makumbi, how good are we at identifying bullying as it stands? Because there's a thin line between banter and being discriminated against, for example. So somebody can come up with statements like, I'm not racist, but, and then they add blah, blah, blah. And then at the same time, this is the same person who is making monkey charts or waving a banana in a way which suggests that come on, eat a banana and go and swing in the trees, things like that. How good are we at noticing those subtle bullying incidents?
What I've seen in the public, if there's someone who comes out to challenge it, the other white will come and support you quietly. But if you don't raise the issue, it becomes the norm, then the other pack joins in. But if you start challenging it, they say they're scared, then the others support. What I've done with these people, when it becomes an issue, they support. If you challenge it. I've been to some areas whereby you see, even you're surprised to see white coming out, writing, supporting. Since I've seen it, I mean, I tried to bully them, but I said, no, I was here. I heard somebody making those remarks. That is unacceptable.
That again depends on the area, because I've been supported a few times by colleagues at work in the face of bullying. But if you are in the middle of Essex, for example, or in Kent, where the background is predominantly making a different kind of noise from the noise that you are trying to portray, don't you put yourself at a bigger risk of encouraging or increasing that bullying incidents if you stand up for yourself?
I went to one of the conferences.
Yeah,
it was a pension conference, British conference. It was one of the big events. When I went there, I found myself I was only when the white black man that table. At the beginning, I felt that I was so terrified of saying anything.
Yeah.
But when I raised up my issues, pinpoint the issues, what black people faces compared to others, they got interest. And then I was given a platform. When I was given a platform, when I read those issues, many of them started supporting me and came forward. Some of them testifying. It doesn't mean that if you are working in a white dominated area, all of them are either racist. No, it's not like we just assume that all of them are racist, but if
fair enough. Let's bring Hajat Sarah in at this point.
Yeah, for me, I would say that sometimes you need to measure the situation. There are certain things you need to ignore. Because sometimes there are those mini bullies who just want to make you miserable and unhappy, and you don't want to give them that power. Sometimes you may not even have enough evidence to bring up your case. So for you, for your own sanity and your own peace of mind, sometimes I think it's best to ignore, just like Masara said previously. There are things you are not going to take on everyone. There are things that are worth it, and there are things which are not worth it, really.
That's well said. Just a reminder for those who have joined in, our topic for tonight was bullying and signs of bullying, and we've expressed quite a lot of sentiments, and we've kind of moved into that territory of discrimination and the colors of our skin, but it all borders on that because bullying takes in different formats. We've got about 10 minutes to the end of the show, and I just wanted to put a little twist to the show. We've been meeting, before I come to you, Mr. Makumbi, we've been meeting for some time now, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank everybody who has attended or who has always come to the show. But as a parting note, can I request that we share the good news that we've had in our families or individually, and the not so good happenings that may have happened to us, so that we can jointly support each other and pray for each other. So if you can have the final remarks from Mr. Makumbi, and then those who feel okay to share the whatever good has happened to them or any misfortune, let us know so that we can offer duas. Mr. Makumbi.
Yeah, I've been at workplace, I've been very strong anarchists. People have the right to say form organization to charter for their cause. Usually I advise people to have the Black Workers Group.
Yeah.
And be active in that. If you form such organization, you become a force to challenge all those forms of racism. Because what I've seen most of the time, most of the managers, when I was working one of the local authorities, I said, you have a problem with recruitment processes. I said it was white dominated. And why can't we look to others? They said it was safe. It is normal. I said, no. It's not normal.
Yeah.
We went to one area which was black dominated. We took the director into that place. It was a conference that was organized by Black Workers Group. He said that it was a chief executive said this is the first time to have been really intimidated, so that I was just a minority. Then we say that's what we feel, because you've never gone through that experience. Because of that, what experience? You said you can write an article on that, express how you felt when you became a minority within the majority. Then he wrote a good article, and then you have to look at the policies of the local authority, and had to look at the policies, and then we even had to look at the accommodation. What we said, yes, they have the statistics. We said most of the black people have been given accommodation to our blocks. We said if you look at the data, all the good affluent areas houses have gone to white. Could you explain on that? He denied the fact. Then we said just get out the facts. When they ran the system, they did the report, and to show that it was being discriminated, black people being taken to the bad areas. And we said, how are you going to address that? When it came to the corporate policies, you said this is an issue, has to be challenged. You have to demonstrate that you are doing something out of that. Because of those challenges, because you had the Black Workers Group, they change the policy and black folks get good accommodation.
I think some of the problems of our own doing, because how many times do we get a job and we bother to read through the policies and procedures, especially the part which pertains to equality, because we've got a job, alhamdulillah, whatever comes, let it come, Allah will handle it for me, but we don't look at those changes.
Allah won't handle that unless you fight for your right.
Exactly.
That's my belief. Yeah, what you did, it became with the policies of the organization, that induction, part of that had to be done to indicate carrying out induction for everybody who was joining an organization to become policy local authority policies. And we had to bring people from the Black Workers Group to address the panel.
Thank you very much there, Mr. Makumbi. Any parting shots from?
Yeah, finally, just like Mr. Makumbi, I've also worked in local authorities, and to be precise, I've worked in more than 4 of them now.
Yeah.
In West Sussex, in Essex, West Sussex, Essex. I've not worked in Kent yet. I came further. Then finally, I work in one of the London or local authorities. But what I've witnessed is there's a lot of change, and there's a sigh of relief as I kept on changing jobs in terms of with the workforce, the people, when there's a very big difference when you work in London, the people you meet, the outlook, or when you go in meetings, you find that there are people there that look like you, that sound like you, and it gives you a bit of confidence when you look at the corporate structure, right from the CEO and then the directors. You find that at least there are 2, 3, 4 directors that look like you. It is something that gives you a sigh of relief that there's some way in which there's a way you can survive in there. And personally, at least it's the first time I've worked in a local authority and I've had at least a text message or a WhatsApp message from a director, because they're from African descent and they've become your friends, and then sometimes they joke around with you on WhatsApp. Something that you never witnessed or never saw in other local authorities, because you never even met them in the first place, because of that class that they had created and the barriers between. I know it may be that probably in those other authorities you were at the lower rank, but at least there's something in London. And me, I've even said it to my friends that I don't think there's anything that can ever persuade me now to work outside London, because I feel much secure working in London. I don't live in London. I'm more than happy to go and travel an hour drive to go and work in London, but it gives me that satisfaction. And then also this remote working also, it has in one way or the other worked for so many people. If you feel the office environment is proving to be so tense and you can't handle the pressure, these days you can negotiate your way out and say, oh, I'll take a back seat. I'll operate from home, just to let go of certain pressures. Then probably you can return, and they're encouraging that. If you think you can't handle the environment, probably there's something that's not working for you in the office. These days you can make arrangements with your manager completely, and you stay at home, so long as you touch base.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sowedi. Unless it's a burning point from Mr. Makumbi in a word.
Yeah, it's a burning issue. What I've seen I'm just giving the example because I've been through the battle with my managers. What it is, where people, jobs were advertised for the senior post, say experience needs to be of this, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
We brought it as an issue. Someone who has been here, who has not got any background, but has been there, how does he get the experience? The job you're advertising was just needs so much of that experience. It was part of the issue that you're being discriminated, those people who are people from the ethnic minorities, because you're raising up the bar. And then the manager said, how can you change it? I said, you have to give people the chance to act up. If they act up, they pick up the experience. You said, let's become a policy before any job that is being advertised, where you see that there are few black people in those areas, open up the avenue for acting up to give those people at least enough experience. Say a year acting it up, you save money. You might work at a low grade, but he's acting up. When it comes to interview, then give him a chance or a shot to have an interview. And by doing those things, we've seen black people going up to becoming senior managers, because they're given a chance to know what is required. Oh, they've been that post. So
Thank you very much.
Those things, go for those things, acting up.
Thank you very much, Mr. Makumbi, and for all those that have contributed. We've been discussing bullying as parents, how we've noticed it in our children. This is your usual Tuesday program. Come, let's talk with Kassim Kayira. I've been standing in for Kassim. My name is Jaden. To the back office team, thank you very much for keeping the system going. For everybody who has contributed, assalamu alaikum, and we'll meet again next Tuesday. Thank you very much for your contributions.
Okay.